You have met several patients and heard some very moving stories this morning, but we're going to go a step further. We have always heard from the scientists and the researchers and the industry folks in the room that one of the most important things about coming to this convention is that they have the opportunity to hear from patients, because many of them who are not clinicians and are working in the lab don't really have a chance to meet with and hear from patients and what their lives are like. And interesting, we had a little focus group with some of the patients who attended last year's session, and we asked them, what other things do you want to hear about? And they said, we would like to hear from patients. We'd like to hear them speak from the stage about their life experience. So we have asked our Chief Mission Officer, co-founder Susan Ruediger, to assemble a great panel of our friends and patients.
Thanks, Cleary. If you all want to make your way up to the stage while I do the introductions, we'll see if we can shave off a little bit of time that way. So I'm really honored to be moderating this panel today. I know we've heard a lot of really great patient stories, and the only thing we want to do is add a little bit more color to that. Yesterday, when we were talking to the researchers, the whole thing was about developing treatments, what's most important to us. Today, it's going to have a little bit of a different bend to it, since we're talking to a mostly audience full of people from the CMT community. Let me introduce the panel to you. I'm going to start with Sital Bhavsar, who is, there she is on the end. Sital lives in New York City, and she's an anesthesiologist. Her daughter has a de novo diagnosis of CMT2A, and she decided to get involved and felt the best way to do so was to help with advocacy. So Sital is currently a board member of the Hereditary Neuropathy Foundation, and she's encouraged by all the advances in research and technology for meaningful treatments in the future. And I think we have a slide with Sital's daughter on it. I wanted to make sure we were able to get up there. It's coming. Okay, we'll show you that in a minute. There she is. Next, we have Lily Sander, and Lily is a 16-year-old patient from Fort Mill, South Carolina. And Lily was diagnosed not only with one CMT mutation, but actually with two CMT mutations. So she has HNPP and CMT1E, and she was diagnosed when she was 4 years old. Lily's grown up advocating for herself, and she's had the privilege of educating others and speaking in various disability spaces. This love for advocacy led her to found her own nonprofit and raise awareness for other issues that are close to her heart. But with the support of her family, Lily has found the strength to be a part of the change to end the disease, which has impacted her life so greatly. And I'd like to just add a little bit here. Her father, Tom, joined the board of directors for the CMT Research Foundation. And when he was thinking about doing that, he said, my daughter is doing everything she can possibly do, and I'm not going to do anything. So he came on board. Next, I've got Michelle Moon for you. And Michelle Moon is a neurologist and a palliative care doctor living in the Seattle area. Her daughter died in 2016 at the age of 5 from a severe form of CMT. She's advocated for CMT by telling her daughter's story on various platforms. And when their story went viral, she used that opportunity to help promote CMT awareness and advocate for treatments. Adrienne Weinstein is from the suburbs of Washington, D.C., and she comes from a family affected by CMT across multiple generations. Growing up with CMT, she had her own quiet struggles and surgeries, something I know we can relate to. But it was after losing her father and her brother too early to CMT that made it clear she needed to stop being silent and do more to advocate for solutions and cures. And I think lastly, we've got Javier and we've got Eloise. So Javier Jover lives in Brownsville, Texas. He is a pulmonary doctor and a critical care physician and is the first in his family to be diagnosed with CMT4J. He started his symptoms about 15 years ago, but it took 10 years for him to get a diagnosis. He attended this meeting last year and said, okay, I've got to do more. What can I do? And I said, will you come speak on our panel? So here he is, and he's doing everything he can to advocate for a cure. And then lastly, we have Eloise Schlafly. Eloise lives in St. Louis, and she advises clients through comprehensive financial planning. She has CMT1E, and she was diagnosed around the age of 15 after not being able to keep up with her friends in sports. Her symptoms have gotten worse and over time, and today she avoids using stairs and uses braces to get around. Eloise hates CMT, but she's thrilled about the flurry of research being conducted, and she has big hopes for the researchers and the patients in the room. So thank you, y'all, for being here. Okay, so now that I've done your introductions for you, I want to jump straight into our questions and answers. So everyone's going to have a minute to answer this question, which is, why are you here? Why are you here at this conference? Why are you here speaking on the panel? Why are you giving up your time and your expense to get here? And Sital, if we want to start with you on the end and then we'll work our way this way, that'd be great.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the CMTRF for inviting us on this panel. It's an honor to be here. I'm here because I want CMT to end, and plain and simple. This was when my daughter was diagnosed. It came to us as a shock because, like I said, it was a de novo mutation. And you know, with my background, I was like, okay, there's got to be something. And when I did the deep dive, the dive got deeper and deeper, and I was like, wait, how can there not be anything? So I decided to get involved, and I want to be involved in ways that I know could be meaningful. And like one of the speakers spoke earlier, the sense of urgency is there. And I just want this to come to fruition as soon as possible.
Thank you, Michelle.
Hi, I'm here for my family. I'm here because this disease is not okay. I think that I'm a neurologist and I learned about this disease. I was the typical neurologist, meaning I didn't know a whole lot about CMT. So I knew it as something that was pretty mild and people just overcome. And we do amazing things, but it's also debilitating and devastating, and it can come out of nowhere, and this can happen to anyone. That's not okay. I think all of us, you know, there's been so much done in, you know, other diseases, and we're not that rare. And I just, you know, it's very frustrating, but that's why I'm here, because it's not okay. This is a great time. And we just have to do something about it.
I would echo a lot of those things. I am here for my family, but I'm also here because I really believe in the way that Susan and Pat have put together a coalition of all of the different people that are necessary to kind of make a cure happen and make therapeutics happen. I think that because this is a progressive disease, the earlier that we can find something, anything, the amount of life that you can get back is just makes me feel hopeful, not only for myself, but for the next generation of people who are growing up with this disease. And I just want to be part of helping do something about it. I think that a lot of times you can grow up with something like this and feel a little bit helpless, feel like, oh my gosh, there's nothing to be done. There's nothing that we can do, but there is. So I just want to be part of it.
Hi, I'm here because, like all the other panelists, I'm frustrated that we are still fighting and looking for a cure. So I have decided not to be frustrated quietly and to use that frustration to propel the motivation and the momentum to find treatments for this disease, not only for myself, but for future generations. And I really just don't want anyone else to have to fight against this or to have to deal with CMT, period. So I will do everything that I can in my power to make that happen.
Good morning. I'm here because I was here last year. And I was here last year because when I got my diagnosis about 5 years ago, at the end of the visit, the diagnosis was made and the question was, okay, we got a diagnosis. So now what? And the answer was basically this. And I don't think that's acceptable. I look for a venue for a group and I found CMTRF. I came here last year and I think that there's too much to do. I'm here in this panel, probably the person who got it very late in my life. I already got my career, my family, and I know it is not too much for me, but it's more for the future generations, my kids, my grandkids. I want them to have hope, but a realistic hope and something tangible if they are diagnosed with the same disease.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to what everyone said is I'm here because I really think that it's the CMTRF and the researchers in the room yesterday that are going to end it. And so why wouldn't I be here and part of talking about it and championing that this is a great foundation that's going to find the cures?
Oh my gosh, thank for that vote of confidence. That means so much. So Michelle and Lily and Javier, will you answer the question, how has CMT most disrupted your life? And Michelle, if you want to get started, then Lily, then Javier.
Well, the obvious answer is that we lost my daughter because of it, and there's so much I can say about that. I think though, I think for anyone who's been through anything like this, one of the things that comes out of it is you have to do something meaningful with your life. And so that usually means lots of things change. In my case, it was a change of career from neurology to palliative medicine because that was the field that could help us at the time. So I would say that those are kind of my twin passions. I think that, you know, I think that we are at a time, it was different when this was happening to us 5-6 years ago. I think that it's so important to kind of seize what we have right now. And so I'm kind of straddling both worlds, knowing that sometimes there are a lot of things we can't cure in our lifetime, but we also have to hope. And I think this is why I'm here.
It's extremely hard to quantify the most disruptive experience that CMT has caused in my life. But I will say that my childhood was majorly disrupted through my diagnosis and my progression and my operations. So I would say that CMT made me grow up super quickly and kind of stole my innocence. And that's on top of, the daily trials of falling and pain and weakness, and also just like the progressive aspect of it, not knowing what tomorrow or next week or next year holds. So again, it's extremely hard to put my finger on just one thing. I think that CMT is incredibly multifaceted. So it's kind of a combination of all of these little things that make CMT such a challenge.
Yeah, Lily, I remember being a teenager with CMT and all I wanted to do was be normal, and yeah, I understand. Javier?
Well, the most disruptive thing that CMT caused me is the loss of what you just said, normal functions, certain things that you take for granted, that you cannot do anymore. I realized that I was having problems when I started falling. Had a fracture in the foot after a fall, had a torn ligament in the knee after a fall. And you realize that you have to have something in order to be looking normal or acting normal. And actually to function, I needed to do certain things, and the need to use orthotics at all times, in order to try to go through life, because I'm a professional. I was in the field of pulmonary critical care at the right moment when COVID hit. I couldn't stop working, and I was working more than ever. And I had to find ways to continue doing my job and continue doing, on top of trying to stay alive, of course, through COVID, that was another thing. But the disruption in the motor functions and the disruption in the fine motricity is what is more affecting mostly my life at this time. And the look for not only for a gene modification that cures the disease, but for anything that can stop the progression or slow down the progression is our goal, and is where I think we're gonna get with this organization. I think we're gonna get there.
Thank you, Javier. So for Adrienne, Eloise, and Sital, what has been the most successful thing that you've done to manage CMT? Whether it's, for yourself or whether it's for your children, what have you found a strategy to kind of help you get through every day?
For us, it's been, as hard as it's been, we've just accepted it. And we've taken the approach as a family to it's just going to be a part of our lives. We don't have to like it, but we do have to address it. And my daughter, she's 8, so she's still very young. And we just tell her that she can do it. And it's hard to have to say that every day, knowing what we know, that this disease is progressive, and one day she may not be able to do everything that she wants to do. So I think for us, just as a family, we've decided that we will give her every opportunity that we can, and every opportunity that's safe for her to do. And I think that hope that she one day will also carry that on her own, that she can do whatever she wants and with it safely, is something that I think that's been the most successful thing for us, is to actually accept it instead of trying to fight it.
That's super fair. Adrienne?
I would say it's been getting to participate here. So I think that finding an organization that is actually going to take action and take steps towards finding a cure is one of the things that makes me feel successful in managing this, because as everybody here knows, it's not only the physical side, I think it's the mental and emotional side. And I think that having something where you are taking action and doing something positive has been really, really helpful. And so I'm grateful to CMTRF for that.
I think for me, in a desperate attempt to feel normal for a very long time, I hid it. I didn't talk about it. I didn't have my braces in a way that people could see them. And that didn't work. And so I think finally I learned the most successful thing I think I've done is learn how to ask for help. And part of that was a friend kicking me out and saying, "Hey, you're going to have your legs out tonight." And I was like, no, I'm not having my legs out. She said, "Yes, that's the plan. We're going." And I went out, and now my legs are always out. People always see my braces. I think I have asked about 1 million people for help. I asked a homeless man for help. I asked restaurant people for help. I asked kind of everyone of, "Hey, can I borrow an arm?" And people really want to help you, and they want to learn more, and they get me from place A to place B. And so I think that's the best thing I've done.
Awesome. That takes a lot of courage to ask for help. Takes a lot of courage. Okay, so Javier and Adrienne and Michelle, knowing what you know now, what would you have done different when you were younger in regards to the impact of CMT?
I think I would have, if I had had time, tried to find a community faster. I think this is it can be a very lonely and isolating disease for many reasons, but I think part of it's because it's so different in people. I didn't know anyone with a child that looked anything like us. Thank God I still don't. But I think just having this kind of community, which I don't really think was here in this, in this kind of form a few years ago. It's hard to put into words how just profoundly helpful and how much hope it gives. So just, again, finding that community early.
Similarly to what a few others have said today, I do think that maybe I would have tried to tackle it head on earlier in my life. I think that I came from a family where it was definitely, even though everybody kind of knew about it, nobody spoke about it. So there's definitely not an acknowledgement. I never got myself diagnosed until after my father died, even though I think everybody knew that it was kind of present in our family. And so I think that I would have tackled it head on earlier and tried to inform myself kind of for the sake of myself, and then like for the sake of knowing what to do as a parent of people with CMT. I would have just taken it on faster and earlier.
Well, in my case, I don't know if I could have done anything earlier because I'm a de novo case in my family. Nobody else has it in my family. Of course, I started having symptoms 15 or more years, probably 15 years ago. I'm just glad that it didn't show up in my life earlier, but of course, my worry right now is my family, my kids, my grandkids, I wish the diagnosis was made sooner. That was the thing. I wish I was directed in a better way, probably at the beginning of this, towards the right diagnosis. But I don't know if I could have done anything earlier. Maybe not get too much involved in my work and really think seriously about the symptoms that I was feeling. And but it is what it is. This is what I did. And I probably getting a sooner diagnosis faster, probably having even the neurology community more aware of this being so-called rare disease, which I think is not that rare if you diagnose it properly, so I think early diagnosis is what I would have wanted.
Yep. And for everyone, as a final question, when you think about the future, what does it feel like in regards to treatments, or when you look 5, 10, 15 years ahead? How do you feel? And Sital, I'll let you start and we'll just go down the line.
I have mixed feelings about the future because I am a realist. I do understand this disease and its potential that it has. But at the same time, I'm very hopeful, not to keep using that word over and over again, but I think we're at a point where we can't turn back now. And there's really nothing that should stop the research and the development of treatments, with the combination of the research that we already have, the research that's ongoing, technology. We haven't even factored in AI into all this. So who knows which way this can go and how fast it can go. So with everything, with all the tools that we have at our disposal now, I think that we're on pace to do something really great, and hopefully we'll have treatment sooner than anyone could have ever imagined. So
I would say that I would say cautiously hopeful. I think that I keep on saying this, but this is very different from it was 5, 6, 7 years ago when we were going through this with my daughter. No one was talking about any kind of effective treatment. It's very exciting. I think, to be quite honest, we have a rare form. We have a newly diagnosed form 1J. And, I think rightly so, it makes sense why we're a lot closer to 1A, a treatment for 1A. And so sometimes I think if you have one of the more rare forms, you can kind of, it's harder to see. It's harder to see treatment for that. But what I think is really important is that CMTRF we're really here for all of the mutations. And I think, progress in one will really help those of us who have the more rare ones. And that's what I have to believe in.
I do feel excited about all of the momentum and all the groundwork that's been laid so far. I would echo everything that you all were just saying. This is so much different from, I think, what my dad faced when he very first got diagnosed and there was absolutely nothing. And so I think that the picture that we have in front of us today, where the science is there, a lot of the mechanisms of delivery and different technologies to go towards that, it's very exciting as a patient. I am I have 1A, so I do feel very hopeful about something being available for myself and the rest of my family. Definitely within my lifetime. If you had asked me 10 years ago, did I think that anything would happen within my lifetime? I probably would have said no, but now my answer is yes. So I'm happy about that. And thank you to everybody in this room for contributing to that.
Like Michelle said, I am cautiously hopeful. I do have a very rare form of CMT. So I have mixed feelings when I see all of these research and treatment updates, just because I don't feel super represented or researched for. So it's hard for me to feel hopeful for my future when most people have never even heard of type 1E. But at the same time, I do understand that progress is progress. So every step closer that we are to getting a treatment for any type of CMT is closer to mine. But again, it is hard because we've been hearing that we're going to have a treatment soon for years and years. So it's hard to stay hopeful, but I think it is important to live every day with an ounce or more of hope, just so that you have something to keep you going.
I will have to echo what my co-panelists are saying here, cautiously optimistic about everything that is going on regarding one particular type of mutation, because I have a 4J and it's not very common and we didn't hear much about it, but very optimistic about the others because a lot of progress has been done. And as I said before, mostly because I know that in 5 or 10 years, there will be something clear, specific, and very present there for patients who are newly diagnosed at that time. And that interests me particularly because of my descendants. It particularly interests me because of my kids and my grandkids. Very optimistic about that, though.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I think, this is a very isolating disease in that we've all got different versions. We've all got different ages where it rears its ugly head. We've got different progressions. But being in the room yesterday with all of these researchers who are all working on CMT specifically really feels like when I was diagnosed at 15, there was 0 of that happening. And today or yesterday, there was it 130 people there? 130 people there. And I agree. I'm a 1E as well. And I'm pretty convinced that 1A and 1B will be cured. And then what about 1E? But hopefully a rising tide floats all boats. And that will continue to have progress. So I'm pumped. I'm excited. And I understood maybe 1 out of every 10 sentences yesterday. And so for an isolating disease, you feel like, wow, all of these people know so much more than I do about CMT. And it's the thing that I live and breathe. So that's pretty cool. So I was happy about with my 1 in 10.
Well, let's give it up for not being normal. I mean, are these people extraordinary or what?